Hi, and welcome to the Digital and Social Summit 2025. I'm Paul Greenwood, and I head up the Research and Insights team at We Are Social. This is this place where we unpack our global digital report, which has really become the Bible for all marketers around the world when it comes to all things digital, social, e-commerce, and mobile. It's been downloaded 20 million times. A little bit about We Are Social. So we're a socially led creative agency with a global footprint. We have 1,200 people across the network who are experts in all things social media and influencer marketing. These people really help us when it comes to our thought leadership and drive our brands that we work with forward. Today, I'm with Brittany and Laura. So Brittany is our global head of paid media, and Laura is someone that I work closely with, and she's the global head of social media for Booking.com. And we're going to be talking about how to win in culture. So how to build the brand at the speed of social. I'm going to spend a couple of minutes just up front adding a little bit of context. And then what we're going to do is at the end, we're going to have about a 20-minute discussion around how to really win in culture and build the brand. I think it's safe to say that actually we're now in an era of algorithms, we're in an era of creators and big tech evolutions and shifts in culture. And what's really important now, and what's really important to understand is that brands no longer control their own narrative. Their audiences and consumers do. So a really good example of this is something like fandoms remixing IPs. So this is a Balenciaga catwalk that's been reimagined as a Harry Potter show at the top. AI-generated content is everywhere nowadays. This is the most shared piece of AI content of the last year. And it's been estimated around about 57% of all content online is AI-enhanced or generated. And finally, we see creators who are becoming insta-famous overnight, and they're real cultural gatekeepers, especially around online communities, and they can shape culture in ways that brands can't. And so for a brand, it's about not using social media as a broadcast channel and prioritizing followers, but actually using social in a much more meaningful way, maximizing engagement, maximizing sentiment, and also like building advocacy as well. And we know that brands are being won and lost on social. So the example we've got here is a great example for Gap. So a few years ago, Gap was in a bit of a middling situation and wasn't really performing at the level it should have been. It brought in a new CEO who had a new culture and social first strategy. And within a few months, the Gap had huge success in terms of its margins and its profits, which were the highest in 20 years for the group. And that strategy was built around a couple of things. So the first was all around content and collaborations that allowed it to maximize its cultural footprint, but also turbocharge and kickstart its paid media strategy. So it worked with people who could tell stories, but could show the brand and product in meaningful ways. The example we've got here on the slide is Dapper Dan. He is like a cult classic 1980s counterfeiter who started off in a market store that has become this kind of institution in the fashion and luxury world. And Gap worked with him to redesign one of its hoodies to help reach new communities and destigmatize the brand in certain ways. It also works with the likes of Troye Sivan and Tyler, who are very social first and really feel part of the internet zeitgeist. So they're really thinking hard on what can they do on social. And when we look at the data, though, what we're seeing with social is that time is getting tighter. So on average, people spend 70 hours per month on social, which is high, but down from a couple of years ago, down by 5 hours. So time is getting tighter, but platforms are still being still plentiful. So the average number of platforms someone accesses on social is about 7 per month. So there's a lot of time spent across different platforms, but some of those platforms are stronger in terms of their stickiness than others. So TikTok is the best here with about 35 hours a month. So people go to TikTok and stay a lot. And we also know that brands will not win on media spend alone. While it's good to see digital ad spend growing year on year, up nearly 10 percentage points, and forecast to go even higher this year, we know from other research that actually it's fame-driving content that actually impacts brand and is 50% more likely to drive large business effects than other types of content. And when we're talking about fame, I'm not talking about awareness or reach. They're kind of media metrics that we can use. We're talking about being part of culture, being part of the conversation, creating a buzz around the brand, and having the authority that comes with it. So I guess the implication for us is that we're seeing a world of shrinking attention spans, but brands can win by mastering a new and different rules of social. And that doesn't mean chasing every trend, but cutting through with smart culture first thing. And that's why we have Booking.com here. There's 5 principles that I've looked at when I work with them that they really embody when it comes to social media. The first is entertain or die. So being an entertainment first brand that people want to spend time with on social. And that doesn't just mean competing with other brands, it means competing with anyone who's on social. So that could be creators, it could be meme accounts, it could be anything that blows up overnight and becomes the main character. The other area that Booking.com is excellent at is really having this chronically online mindset. So reading the internet, understanding what's going on in the zeitgeist and reacting to it. And like I said, sometimes it's good to know what not to react to as it is just as much to react to. And that's when Booking.com gets it really, really right. Fan service as a standard is another mindset, another principle that people really love. And it's not just simply liking a comment. It is going over and above and adding to the conversation and making your fans feel seen and heard and turning them into advocates. Writing the algorithm is a really important one here because while paid media is a really important part of any kind of social media strategy, there are other smart strategies that you can have when it comes to influencer marketing, distribution strategies, partnerships that allow you to maximize your footprint online. And finally, my favorite one, and when working with Booking.com, is that this always in beta mindset. So this is basically when things go well, when things go less well, you're learning and optimizing as always. And so these are the 5 principles we're going to talk about in terms of how to build a modern brand in the age of social. So welcome, Brittany and Laura. Thanks for taking your time today. Laura, I'll start with a few questions. Britt, feel free to jump in and let's just have a conversation. So I guess we're talking about modern brand building in the age of social, and that taps into different dynamics in terms of social dynamics, like the unpredictable, promoting participation. My question to you is, like, for Booking.com, how do you define modern brand building? And are there any recent campaigns or content that really showcase that, the brand is achieving that kind of speed at social?
Yeah. Well, hi, first of all.
Hi.
Great intro. I feel like I learned something already. So yeah, in terms of modern brand building, I think, brands have gone from, these entities that need to advertise to people and kind of project a message at people. But in social, like, that doesn't really work. You have to really lean into what people want there. So for us, we're always thinking about what is the end user actually going to watch this. So really, we're not really advertisers anymore. We're entertainment providers. So we're always thinking about, is this going to be entertaining? Are people going to watch it? So I know a lot of companies want to be social first, but I really challenge that. And you really need to be entertaining first when it comes to how you represent yourself in social. So yeah, and for us, in terms of like measuring success for that, like, how are we getting people to talk about us, is really like, is our entertainment that we're providing impactful? Are people actually talking about us? So we do that in small ways, trends, trying to jump on trends and get people to comment in the comment sections, but then also with things that we create ourselves and try to create trends ourselves. And I think one of the best examples of that that we've worked with you guys on is our Genius campaign, where we work with very unexpected influencers, and it's 100% entertaining first, really leaning into humor. And even though the point of the campaign is to talk about travel deals and a loyalty program, which in itself is quite boring, but I think we together have done a really great job to make it interesting, make it something people are talking about. And we did actually get like global press organizations to talk about the campaign and to talk about our loyalty program. So
I know, and that's like how you just summed that up is really interesting, because you're a travel agent, you're an online travel agent, and you have a lot of functionality there. The app's great, and it's sometimes hard to make that entertaining, like, especially when you're experiencing a holiday as well. And I think that's a really interesting way of, like, when you're talking about the unexpected and choosing those influencers that you wanted to work with, and also the humor that you had in there, and the self-aware humor of those different influencers was really interesting. It's a really good campaign, and everyone if you've not seen it, go out and check it out, because it is really genuinely funny as well. Britt, did you have anything to add in terms of your perspective?
Yeah, I think when you talk about being an entertainment brand, of course, I think that's the way a lot of brands need to think these days, not just, as you said, social first, but how do you decide and how do you think about, okay, this is a trend I want to jump on, or, this has reached the point where we want to, be part of this trend. How do you run that analysis, and how do you, be part of those conversations and decide which conversations you want to be part of and not?
Yeah, I think this is a challenge that we constantly face, where things will be trending and we want to jump on it, but if we can't make a travel angle work to the trend, then we really shouldn't jump on it, because it's not helping our brand. We could just jump on it and just do something fun, but is that really helping promote a travel connection to booking.com, which is ultimately our goal? We want people, when they think of travel, to think of booking. So that for me is really the criteria, and it's pretty loose criteria, because travel is, you can really get that to work with almost anything. But yeah, it's just, can we take this trend and can we have a travel spin on it in a way that's not cringe? Ultimately, sometimes we do give it a try and then we watch it and we're like, oh God, like that's not great. So we don't post it.
And the other thing, I'm part of those chats. There's a big chat with the whole team on there, and there's a lot of discussion around whether you jump on a trend or not. And it's also having those different perspectives in terms of like, oh, I think it could, I think it couldn't, and you're almost brainstorming in real time around what's the angle in there, how can we react, are we going to be timely enough? So yeah, like you said, they're pretty loose, but there's a lot of different perspectives come in and help make that decision. And there are guardrails around, we definitely can't react to that, we can react to that. So yeah,
of course, there's the legal guardrails, which are also kind of loose, but I just tell my team, as long as we don't get fired for jumping on this trend, then it's good, we're good.
I think it can be really challenging as a brand to fight the urge to not say, okay, this is blowing up, everyone's talking about this, we should be able to get involved and we should find a way to spin it, to our advantage. And that we always talk about, especially, on agency side, that as soon as the brand gets involved, that's sort of the death of the trend. So there really is I think a strategic balance there to not make it cringe, but also make it relevant. And I think booking.com does a lot of work to master that and be thoughtful about that.
Yeah. And I think that is one of the challenge that social teams have. You're set up. I think most social teams are set up now to react fast, to jump on things quickly. And so the temptation is always there. This thing's trending, we should jump on it. But you've also seen brands jump on things and it has the opposite effect, where you're actually, that's a bad thing. So, I do think that there's a risk in putting content out there that makes you look like you're trying too hard. Is counterproductive to what you want to achieve. So, and it's hard, because I've had conversations with other people in the department. How do you decide? And it's kind of a vibe thing. It's like there's no exact science to it. You're like, is this adding value to the conversation? Is this adding value to the trend, or is it us just looking desperate to try to get on the trend?
Yeah. That's really good. That is it adding value, or is it just taking value or taking away from it? I think that is the key thing there. Like, if you can't add value, you don't have a different perspective, then yeah, you shouldn't be jumping on that. And a lot of work goes on behind the scenes in terms of what the big strategies on social, what our content pillars are, who do we want to talk to, and all that is kind of locked down with the team, and everyone knows that in the background. So it does help with that as well. So yeah, I think there's a lot of upfront upfront intelligent thinking, and then it allows you to have that space to react to trends in a timely and relevant manner.
And understanding those vibes, I think, to Paul's point, like this constant state of kind of learning and testing and understanding, like that didn't really land when we did that. I imagine that takes time too. It's not suddenly you've got this rule and it works every time. There's lots to kind of optimize and learn there.
Yeah.
And I guess we started talking about it, but in terms of the team structure and the operations around it, Laura? Like, we talk about how do you react to a trend, but like, what goes into like setting up that team from a Booking.com side, but also like how you work with the agency? Like, how do you? That, I guess that comes from you and your team, but like, what's your thought processes around that?
Yeah, I mean, I think we are social and Booking have done a really great job to become one team. I think, you know, there's so many different operational models that you can have. You can have everything in-house. You can have everything, you know, with an agency. And I think we have like a nice mix of, you know, creative strategy, production, kind of on both sides. And you know, I think also kind of traditionally there's like the client, like, here's the brief, do the thing, come back with the ideas, we'll review the ideas. But in this line of work that's so fast, everything's moving and changing every day, you can't have that approach. You can't, it's not, you know, like a TV ad setup. So we have done a good job to really be one team and have informal check-ins and just kind of run things past each other on Slack or WhatsApp or whatever it is, where it's never like it's never really like a formal timeline for anything. It's just like, here's the end date. Let's get it done. So yeah, it's really one team at the end of the day.
But that comes from you and you setting those expectations up at the start of the relationship as well.
Yes, my ridiculous demands for sure. Reason for that. But I've seen, like, I worked at an agency for my whole career before I came to Booking. I kind of always saw the other side where I'm like, we are trying to read your minds and that's really hard to do. So let's just not read each other's minds. Let's just talk about it. Yeah.
And something very small that Booking and the team do is like spending a lot of time in each other's offices, sitting next to one another. That facilitates just that kind of that one team mentality, but also the ability to like lean across to someone and go, does this work? Does this, what, you know, what's your opinion on this? That's pretty much standard as well, isn't it?
Yeah. We work from your office once a week. You guys come to ours. And yeah, it's really great that, you know, I'm all for flexibility and working remote. But there is something to like, hey, across the table, like, did you think about this? And we do, I do think those days that we work together are super productive. Plus you guys have better food options by you. So.
Britt, do you want to ask anything else?
Yeah, I think we're talking about this balance of paid, earned, owned. And I always really admired the way that the Booking.com, your philosophy around the use of paid to promote content. I think it can get very, not easy, but, you know, brands either err on one side or too much on the other. And they're either, no, it's got to be organic, it's got to win organic first, or it's, you know, we only rely on paid. And I think Booking has this really healthy kind of balanced approach to it. Do you want to talk a little bit about how you think about that combination of distribution and how you use that?
Yeah. You know, if we had this conversation 10 years ago, 5 years ago, the approach for organic, I think it would be a different conversation, like going viral, having things organically gain traction was a thing. Now it's, you know, why bet? Like, why try to win the lottery when you can put, and, you know, you don't have to invest huge amounts, but, you know, if you're investing the time and energy and money into creating content, you should be budgeting in money to get that content in front of the audience that you want to see it. So we approach engagement, you know, similar to how performance marketing approaches conversion. Like, we are the team that's here to drive brand engagement, and we take it seriously. And within that setup, we have paid media. You know, it's nothing budget-wise versus like a performance marketing budget, but it's healthy enough for us to make sure that the content that we're creating is seen by the audience we want to see it. And because the content is created to drive engagement, the people that see it engage with it. But then additionally, on top of that, I think, you know, social teams have the constant challenge of like, what is engagement even doing for our brand? Like, why does the CEO or the board care that we are driving engagement? So we have set up a few frameworks that shows how engagement is actually affecting conversion, or how engagement is actually affecting brand perception. So we want to be very tangible in what we're doing, how it is actually affecting business results. So it's kind of the less fun, less sexy side of things, but honestly, the frameworks that we set up and the results that we've been able to share allow us to do so much more.
But I think that's so vital too, because to your point, there is a cost to producing content. There's a cost to, the teams, the resources, and being, especially for a brand like Booking, being on these locations and managing all of that and factoring that into your ROI and thinking about, how it's hitting your bottom line is really, kind of I think the ultimate goal of any brand on social, and being able to defend that investment as well.
Yeah, I mean, critical. I don't think there's a single person that can say like, oh yeah, we don't have to show results for what we're doing. We don't, of course we have to do that. And you really, and this is also credit to We Are Social, like when it comes to reporting and insights, like you have to be creative in that as well. Like how we have this product we want to promote, we want to do it in social. How can we actually show business results? Like let's think creatively about how we can set that up.
I love the fact when you were talking about like you take engagement as seriously as like the performance marketing team take conversion. It's like almost learning from performance marketing and applying some of that robustness to, not that social is not robust, but like some of that rigor and that is kind of like harder, lower funnel thinking up to the top of the funnel. It's a really nice way of thinking about it.
Yeah. And honestly, the results that we've gotten now are being worked into the larger performance and brand frameworks. Because I think we are thinking differently than, frameworks that have been set up and have been used for, over a decade. So we're providing kind of new thinking.
Yeah.
Building on those foundations, sorry, Paul, I think is key too, is taking what we know works as marketers and not thinking we have to reinvent the wheel. Like let's take what we know, does work in something like a performance marketing, adapt, adjust, and kind of innovate around that. So I think that's great.
And I have a quick question. Like, I don't know, like you might not have the answer to it, but like, when we just talk about the trends and the content that we produce, like, do you ever show more senior people in the business and they're like, I don't get it, or or are they always like, oh yeah, I kind of get it, or
yeah, no, every week. I think a lot of that comes from also what we're able to do comes from having results to share. So, kind of soft launch into areas that might be a bit of a stretch for a brand, or, a bit weird, or a bit, super, if social, that, a senior executive wouldn't know, and to try to explain to them would be impossible. So you just have to build that trust and that, like, look, we did this, we got these results. I think with this, we're going to get X results. And they're just like, okay, like it's your job on the line. You're like, it's going to be fine. So yeah, it's everything is numbers at the end of the day. So as long as you have numbers to back stuff up, it will allow you more freedom, more trust to do what is going to work on the platform.
Yeah, definitely. I love that. And like, do you use much in terms of social listening to generate insight? Like, what's your relationship with social listening in the team?
Yeah, we love social listening. We have a whole little mini team with you guys for social listening, and we use it for kind of softer stuff. We're starting a new sponsorship. How are people talking about baseball related to travel? And then we do it for more harder hitting stuff. Like, we're seeing a dip in travel in certain markets due to geopolitical events. So what are the big topics that people are talking about in terms of what's, how are they, what are the barriers to people traveling right now? So it's from soft stuff to more serious business impact stuff. And, even for like our products, like we want to promote our homes like home rentals, like what do you call a home rental if you can't call it an Airbnb? And so it's, just doing social listening around how do people speak about things. So yeah, social listening is not just important for our department, but the whole business really uses social listening.
And it's that quick, I guess you could go and do that research elsewhere using more traditional methodologies. I guess it's the agility of social listening allows you to get a quick read on it if you need something like that. And Britt, I know that you like to merge social listening and search analysis as well. Like that's kind of like to give it a bit more.
Yeah, I think increasingly we're seeing that, social search is merging into that sort of social listening space and understanding the kind of volume of conversation and how to align it with the consumer journey and what it looks like as people are researching on social and tying that back to that entertaining content. So yeah, it's interesting to see the evolution of that, of something that was so, I think, qualitative, to your point, a bit softer in nature, is evolving into something very high intent and really, aligning with these lower phases of the journey that's happening on social. So yeah, love to see that.
Cool. I think we've got a couple more questions and then we can wrap up. So I'll take one, and I don't know if you want to finish off, Britt, but I guess from my perspective, looking to the future and future trends, what are the biggest challenges do you anticipate at a global level or a global scale, and how is Booking preparing for them?
Yeah, I think one of the things that I'm working on right now is, what we do with you is focused on Western world English speaking markets. But we're seeing success in it. So, with every company, you see success in it and something, how do you scale it? But how do we do what we do, which is knowing culture, knowing insights, knowing human behaviors, and scale that to 90 markets. So looking for how to do that in an efficient way is something that I'm challenging myself with right now. AI is definitely something looking to leverage, but AI doesn't know how to jump into a social conversation and create content that supports your brand and also contributes to the community. So yeah, how can we have an operational model that is efficient, but doesn't feel like it's an operational model to the end user, if you know what I mean?
Yeah, I definitely know what you mean. Yeah, Britt and I'll go away and give us a couple of days. We'll figure that out for you.
Or is there anything you're really excited about and some of the shifts when it comes to social and what we're seeing on social and in culture that you're looking forward to test and trial and learn something new about?
Yeah, I mean, other than AI, which I really hope could just take over, all the menial tasks of my day. I look forward to that. But I think an interesting thing right now is the volatility in some of the major platforms. You had mentioned TikTok and Facebook, Metas are where people are spending their time, but it's also, a place where TikTok could be canceled in the US. Mark Zuckerberg is not everyone's most favorite person. So people are looking for other options. And I think once there isn't one platform yet that's really emerging. Maybe it's multiple platforms emerge. Maybe something else becomes big. I feel like in the next few years, I mean, barring Facebook just buying whatever the new thing is, that could be really interesting. I mean, TikTok came out of nowhere and is where everyone spends their time now. So what's going to be the next thing? And then also, I think search as well is super interesting. How can we be the thing that people or how can our content be what people search for? I'm going on a trip. I leave tonight actually to go to Indonesia, and I'm going on a certain hike, and I was I was TikToking the hike, seeing how people have experienced it. And I learned that I actually need cold weather clothing because the top is cold, and I didn't even think about that. And if I hadn't watched those TikTok videos, I would have been at the top in a tank top freezing my ass off. So I mean, yeah, I think, search within these social media platforms it is huge, and it's only going to be more huge.
Agreed.
That's great.
Agreed.
One final question: where should we go on holiday? Where should Brett and I book our holidays? Any thoughts?
Oh God, we need another 40 minutes for that. Yeah, that side chat, that one.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for your time,
But
both of you. Oh.
When you do decide, please use booking.com.
Definitely.
Genius. I'm a genius.
Well, thanks so much for your time, Laura and Brittany. That's been really useful. This is our last summit session, so we hope you enjoyed them, and look forward to seeing you soon.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.